All right, today we are diving into one of Python's secret weapons, something called list comprehension. Seriously, if you want your Python code to be cleaner, faster, and just more professional, this is something you've absolutely got to get under your belt.
So let's start with a situation that I guarantee every single person listening has run into. You got a list of stuff, and you need to make a new list based on what's in the first one. Does this whole song and dance look familiar? You start by creating a brand new empty list, then you write out a for loop to go through your original data, and inside that loop, you have to manually append each new thing. I mean, it works, obviously, but is it really the best way to do it? Let's look at it in action. Say we want to double every single number in this list A. The classic approach is to make an empty list, res, loop through every value in A, and for each one, multiply it by 2 and then append it. It gets the job done, sure, but it takes 3 full lines of code. It's a little clunky. Well, it turns out there is a much better, much more elegant, and what we call a more Pythonic way to handle this. So let me introduce you to the solution, list comprehension. And here it is. This is the big reveal. Just look at that side-by-side comparison. On the left, our clunky 3-line loop, and on the right, a single, clean, expressive line of code that does the exact same thing. This is that aha moment. We've just squished that entire loop into one super readable statement. So you might be thinking, okay, I saved 2 lines of code, big deal. But it's about so much more than that. This makes your code way cleaner, and once you get the hang of the syntax, it's actually much more readable. Plus, in a lot of cases, it's actually more efficient. It can run faster than the old school for loop.
Okay, so how does this magic actually work? Let's pop the hood and break down how a list comprehension is really built. It might look a little strange at first, I'll give you that, but I promise there's a really simple logic to it.
So the formal textbook definition says it's a concise way to create lists by applying an expression to each item in an iterable. An iterable is just anything you can loop over, a list, a string, whatever. The key words to focus on here are concise and expression. So this is the basic blueprint. It's all wrapped in square brackets, which makes sense, right? We're making a list. And inside, it really has 2 main parts that you need to know. The very first part, right at the beginning, is the expression. This is the what you want to do part. In our first example, the expression was val times 2. It's basically the final result you want to see for each item in your new list. And the second part? Well, that should look super familiar. It's just a for loop, written exactly like you normally would, just without the colon at the end. This is the engine that goes through your original list, one item at a time, and feeds each item into that expression at the front. Okay, now this is where things get really powerful. What if you don't want to include every single item from the original list? What if you want to be a little more selective? Well, you can add a filter. You can make your comprehension even smarter by just tacking an if condition on the end. Think of it like a bouncer at a club. Now the expression only gets applied if an item meets the condition you set. If it doesn't pass the test, it's not getting in. Here's a perfect example. Let's say we only want the even numbers from list A. So our expression is just val. We want the number itself, no changes. The loop is for val in A. And then we add our bouncer at the end. If val mod 2 equals 0. And boom, the result is exactly what we wanted. A new list with just 2 and 4. It's simple, clean, and incredibly powerful. But wait, there's more. We can push this idea even further. List comprehensions aren't just for simple loops and filters. They can actually handle more complex stuff, like nested loops for working with things like a matrix. So check out this matrix. It's just a list that contains other lists. Now, what if we wanted to flatten it into one single long list? We can do it with a nested comprehension. I know it looks a little crazy at first, but just read it from left to right in the same order you'd write the actual for loops. The outer loop comes first, then the inner loop. Let's just walk through that real quick. The first loop for row in mat grabs that first sublist, 1, 2, 3. Then the inner loop for val in row runs through that list, grabbing 1, then 2, then 3. Once that's done, the outer loop moves on to the next row, 4, 5, 6, and the whole process repeats until every single value is collected. Pretty neat, right? So we've seen everything from the simple stuff to the pretty complex. Let's zoom out and bring it all together. Why should this be a core part of your Python toolkit? This quote really just hits the nail on the head. The goal of a good programmer isn't just to write code that works, it's to write code that is clean, readable, and efficient. List comprehension helps you nail all 3 of those things.
So here's the bottom line. Mastering list comprehension is a huge step in leveling up your Python skills. It's a sign that you're starting to think Pythonically, that you're embracing the features that make the language so elegant and effective.
And that brings us to the end. So I'll leave you with a little challenge. Go look at your own code. Find a standard for loop that's just building up a list from another one. I bet you've got tons of them. And ask yourself, which one are you going to replace first?